Who is ready for another cold front? If you are, you're going to like what I talk about in this video. If you didn't get much of the cool air from the last cold front, well, there's a good chance you might get it from this cool down. So we're going to speak on this. How cold could it potentially get? What's driving this pattern? Listen, this could hit record-breaking territory, so we're going to get very detailed on it. After that, we'll speak on the tropics. Is there signs that things are starting to wake back up out there in the Atlantic? Well, in the shorter term, I don't think so, but we are starting to see some signals that we could enter a more active period as we get deeper into September. So we'll speak on that also. We'll talk about today's weather, and then we'll round the video off with a Bible devotion if you want to join us for that. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. Hope you guys are doing well. It's Friday. I'm feeling great. Hopefully you are too. But this is the latest 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This was issued yesterday. This runs from the 3rd through the 7th of September. If you live in these blue areas, if your state is colored in blue, this is where you have a shot at below average temperatures. The bluer it is, the higher that shot, that higher that percent chance at below average temperatures. And listen, this graphic fits what we were seeing in model guidance very well, what we call a cross-polar flow, something that winter weather fans love to see really in the winter months. We are late August getting into September. This graphic is for early September. But listen, I keep saying this, I keep going back to this, but listen, it's not uncommon to get a cold front in late August, early September. What's more uncommon, almost rare, is to get just cold front after cold front after cold front, and that is what we are seeing in this pattern. So this is the latest 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. You think, okay, well, we're going to warm back up, right? Well, if you look at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, I mean, guys, at this point, this is taken up over the first 1/3 of September at this point, running through the 5th through the 11th of September. Of course, confidence a little bit more fuzzy on this, so you're not seeing as bright blue colors or anything like that. But once again, a large area of the country is in blue for the shot at below average temperatures. Now, I know for my folks that are tuning in out west, I know I don't have quite as many people that tune in from out west, and you're a cool weather fan, you are not liking this pattern whatsoever. Normally when it's warm in the west, it's cooler in the central to potentially eastern U.S., and we'll explain why it does that here in a second. But latest graphic from the Climate Prediction Center, actual humans, so the experts are saying it's coming. So, this warrants some respect here. So what about temperatures? How cool will it get? Let's dive into this before we kind of nerd out with you guys a little bit. So we're just going to look at one operational run of the Euro here. So these are temperatures, not dew points. We're not going to get too much into that in this video. So we're going to start off for next Tuesday, September the 2nd. If I do forget to mention any kind of days of the week or time frames, just look up here, September 02, September the 2nd. So this is around high temperatures potentially depicted off the Euro. Nothing too crazy one way or the other. Not a whole lot of heat, not a whole lot of cool air. But watch as you start to see some cooler temperatures sink down from Canada into the lower 48. So then we start to get into, say, Wednesday. Looks a good bit different from one day to the other, right? From Tuesday to Wednesday. Cooler air spilling down, okay? Then we get into Thursday, all right? And then we get into next Friday. So we're about a week from today. This is potential. This is just model guidance. Still a week out, but this is potential low temperatures for next Friday morning. I mean, widespread 40s. We're starting to get closer to the 50s in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We could certainly use a break from the heat down here in northern Texas. Look at these cooler temperatures being reintroduced. And I say that because we've already dealt with a cooler week, right? Down into the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, the Mid-South. And then we start to get into the first full week of September. And, these are potential high temperatures. Potential high temperatures, guys, for September 5th. Maybe only in the 60s and the 70s, pretty far south, all the way down to Tennessee. I mean, this isn't, me saying, hey, this is exactly what's going to happen, but it's model guides. It continues to be cooler. And then we get all the way into next Saturday morning, college football, first weekend of September. You might be pulling out your fall decorations. For me and my family, we'll be doing that this weekend. But look at this cool morning next Saturday morning. Just a huge cooler air mass. And, it just continues, and the cool air eventually gets all the way to the southeast, and it's nice. And, when is the coolest morning going to be? We're not sure. I think sometime late next work week. but many areas are going to run the risk for their first frost and freeze of the year from this. So it's a very chilly air mass. If you're wondering how cool is this compared to average, well, because you might be thinking right off the bat, well, that's not very cool. I mean, for early September, it is. But, you know, what you're looking at here is the temperature anomaly. So this is temperatures compared to your average. Well, these are, this is what it is compared to your average temperature for this time of the year. So if you live, say, this is for this coming Sunday. So if you live, say, in Oklahoma, going for, if you look at the key down here, 3 to 5, 7 degrees below average. So if your average high is 85, it might be in the upper 70s, around 80 degrees. So this is the air mass that's still in place from the cool down we've gotten this week, right? So this isn't even the big cold air that we're talking about in this video that's coming. So as we start to get into the middle of next week, this is Tuesday, this is Wednesday of next week. I mean, look at this. In that green area, that is 10 to 15 degrees below your average temperature. And you got to kind of know what your average temperature is for early September, right? So for Omaha, whatever that is, say, I'm not sure what it is. It's probably like the low to mid 80s. So your highs might be around 70 and up 70 degrees, upper 60s. So, you know, I don't pretend to know every single state's average high temperature or town, but look at this. Look how chilly this area is. Once you start to get some of these whites embedded in the green, I mean, that's over 15 degrees below average. And this colder air, as we get a week from today, begins to sink further to the south and the east, and then takes over the eastern U.S., kind of reinforces the cooler air. And then we start to get to day 10. We get to day beyond day 10. And I do think we eventually do warm up. But what's crazy to me is model guidance keeps pushing back this cooler air mass in time. So, I mean, it's very impressive. And not just because we're getting a cold front, folks, but just the longevity of this and just how the pattern just kind of keeps reinforcing itself. Now, the reason being, and this is where we'll nerd out with you guys a little bit, the bluer colors on your screen, this is lower pressure, typically brings cooler air or some sort of storm system or both, right? And then the yellows and the orange and the red you see on your screen, that's higher pressure, normally associated with calmer conditions, but more importantly, just warmer than average temperature. So what you got going on here is, as we get into next week, this is like next Tuesday. I mean, when you get a spiking ridge like this, I'm going to draw on this a little bit. When you get a spiking ridge like this over the western U.S., western Canada, all the way up to Alaska, we call this a positive PNA, negative EPO. It's basically ridging over this area of North America, right? This typically can dislodge the jet to the south and basically allows for sort of just cold air to get dislodged from the northern latitudes. And this drops down, and whether it's centered over the middle of the country, the eastern U.S., but this spike in the ridge dislodges cold air from the north and basically buckles the storm track south also. And basically brings a cold front. So as we start to get into late next week, we get a true, what you call, cross-polar flow. And this means that we have a connection from the Arctic region in early September. So this is kind of the one time where I would say, if you're watching videos that say Arctic air mass entering the lower 48, well, you can honestly, you know, tip your cap to that and say, this is kind of coming from the Arctic region in a way. So ridge is continuing to spike. This is dislodging cold air into this dip in the jet. We're probably going to get some active weather, probably south of some sort of cold front boundary, wherever that boundary might set up. And, you know, it just depends. You know, we got to figure that one out. But cold air spilling down into this, and just a pattern that supports a big shot of cold air. Anytime you see a blue connection right here, you know that this is a pretty potent shot of cold air. And, you know, it swings in, digs, and swings in and swings out. And then it looks like we get kind of the North American ridge. And normally when a lot of cold air floods the lower 48 like this in North America, this causes North America to get flooded with a lot of Pacific air. It happens a lot. We much rather this happen in the fall than the winter for winter weather fans, because normally when you flood the North America with Pacific air, in winter, it seems to just last for weeks on end, and you end up wasting a good part of winter on warmer temperatures. So it's an interesting pattern, And I think a great example of that buckle in the jet that I'm talking about is like this. You see, this is at 200 millibars, 40-something thousand feet up in the air. And you can see what I'm talking about. You can see the streamlines and then how they surge south and go like this. That's your buckle in the jet. So, the actual blue I was showing you is lower pressure. So, cold air swinging around this lower pressure and going like this. And this is pulling, basically the flow around the lower pressure is actually yanking down cold air from the north embedded into this trough. So I hope that makes sense. But, I know I keep talking a lot about the cold air. Some people might be thinking, man, you just need to focus on the tropics. Well, this is a very unusual pattern. And it's very interesting to me. And, for people like, man, just give me an update on the tropics. Here you are, not assuming anybody's thinking that. But I know me personally, I've been kind of going back and forth on whether I want to focus just primarily on the tropics and make that my main focus or this cold air mass. But I feel like we should make the number one priority what we're the most confident in, and that is this cold air mass on the way. But let's give you an update on the tropics. So what's going on right now? Of course, we'll kick it off by giving you a broad look at the Atlantic. You can see where a cold front is. I mean, it's pretty clear. A lot of activity in this area, bone dry in this area, right? So, outside of that, anything else we're watching? A little bit of convective activity entering the Caribbean. We got some tropical activity here. You would think, hey, that looks like a Kelty tropical wave. It's not expected to form in anything tropical or anything like that, but there is some energy out here indicated by the colder cloud tops and the colors you see on your screen. Now, one thing we were watching that's not showing up on your screen, man, there's a loud bird right outside my window. Y'all probably don't hear it, but I can. But anyways, we're going to watch a wave come off North Africa and kind of emerge into this area. But for now, you don't really see it. And I wanted to show you the satellite view of North Africa, but it's about 10 hours behind. So I was like, let's just let it go. So right now, let's see if we have a new update. Right now, we still have a 20% chance of a tropical wave developing that's about to come off North Africa. And it says a tropical wave is forecast to emerge off the west coast of Africa on Sunday. Environmental conditions could support some slow development of this system while it moves westward. So we're watching, not concerned about this whatsoever, especially in the shorter to medium term, even in the longer term. But we will look at model, guys. So let's start off Labor Day morning, September the 1st. And this wave is probably right here. You can see just convection, shower and storm activity indicated by the greens and the colors on your screen. And eventually, as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, you see an L pop up on your screen. That's your tropical wave that's been dubbed an area of interest. That's it. It does gain some latitude pretty fast. It definitely has a lot of weakness in the North Atlantic. I do think there's going to be some sort of TUT, upper level low present, way out ahead of this system that really just will probably prevent this from ever being a threat. I really just don't think this is a wave that's going to be a threat at all, but it's worth talking about because you never know. But we get between day 7 and 10, basically next weekend, and this little tropical wave is still doing its thing. And then after day 10, it disappears, and then we got more tropical waves kind of emerging. Model Guides continues to like the idea of some sort of strong low pressure popping off right off the coast of Africa. But anyways, there's really nothing to get super detailed on because there's nothing out there. Now, the GFS, over the last couple runs, it shows something interesting. I haven't looked at the 06Z run, which we're about to look at together. But same thing, shows a tropical wave as we're getting into midway next week. Looks pretty healthy, too. And it actually strengthens pretty fast. And actually to the point where, we get about a week from today and we have tropical storm, a tropical storm out here, which would be Gabrielle. That's the next name, Gabrielle, the G name. Will this happen? I don't know. GFS tends to do this really too fast sometimes. But regardless, it gains latitude, weakens, and finds a weakness in the pattern. And there is some more tropical wave activity that tries to show up behind this. But once again, it's nothing overly concerning. Euro AI model shows the wave also. Thursday of next week, Friday of next week, we get past the 1 week and the wave disappears. Shows another wave popping off Africa. This gains latitude immediately. Not a big threat. Icon, check it out here. Same thing, showing that wave. Model Guides is liking this wave in the shorter term now. Tip your cap. Tip your cap to the National Hurricane Center because I know I made 2 mornings ago. I was like, I don't know what the National Hurricane Center is seeing here. Well, they saw it before model guides really did. And sure enough, we're starting to see a pretty strong signal for a wave that's probably going to try to do its thing for several days, but I just don't think it's going to survive. I don't think we have a favorable enough phase over the Atlantic for anything to really survive, and there's nothing favorable about it at all. We're in a sinking air phase. We need a rising air phase for things to get active out here, and we don't have that. And I think I said this in yesterday morning's video. I just don't think we're going to be tracking a tropical system. I'll say this. I don't think we're going to have any kind of threats to land until September 10th onward. That's my personal opinion. So we'll see. But the Euro Ensemble, remember, makes up 51 members, so you're going to see a lot of L's on your screen. It does, between now and the next week, pick up on this wave. But, I mean, even if you go 10 days out, it looks like most of these members kind of dissipate. Some of them survive, so we'll certainly watch for that, but not a very alarming signal at all. What about the GFS Ensemble? Same thing. Picks up on the wave. But, I mean, it's hard to take this too serious right now. But we will continue to watch it because it does show some members surviving, you know, getting further to the west. But for now, nothing to be concerned about. Any kind of homegrown activity, we'll take a look at the GFS. It can sniff this out pretty well sometimes. We get about a week from today. We got to watch this cold front that'll sag down. Does anything try to spin up here? No. Nothing. So, one thing I will say, it goes back to the more favorable MJO phase that I've been talking a lot about, right? We are going to enter a better phase for tropical activity. So enjoy the break that we're getting. I know I am. It's been nice not making evening videos, but of course, it's inevitable. We'll get back to it. But for now, things look pretty quiet out there. And like I said, I just think that it's going to be about the middle part of September before we have a threat. That's my opinion. Might not be somebody else's opinion. That doesn't mean we're not tracking something before then. But my kind of set date is September 10th onward before we have a threat to land again. Now, maybe a tropical wave can rumble through the Lesser Antilles. You know, I'm not going to count that. But I'm talking about like a tropical storm or higher. But that could change, and that's why we make a video every single day, right? But here's the global tropics hazard outlook. You got a 20% chance of tropical development, which I pretty much matches well with this tropical wave, right? I think they did a very good job with this graphic a few days back. And sure enough, we have a 20% chance of a tropical wave developing in this area. Now we get to the 10th through the 16th. This is where we have a bump up to a 40% chance of tropical development. And they're saying to watch the Southern Gulf and the Western Caribbean also. So that's kind of the longer range tropics hazard outlook. Now let's talk about today's weather. The leftover boundary still sagging across the south. This is bringing us some heavy rainfall across the deep south states. We got another kind of reinforcing shot of cold air, but we got enough lift to get some shower activity over the northeast this morning. A little bit of energy rumbling through Eau Claire, Wisconsin, South Dakota, a little bit of stuff in Colorado. A lot of rain surging through southern Utah and areas of Arizona. A little bit of rain up here in northern Montana. It's current conditions. Watches, warnings, and advisories, flood watches, you know, kind of along the Arklatex area. Some dense fog out here across Kansas and Missouri. But not a lot of alerts out there. Watches, warnings, and, Storm Prediction Center outlook. There is a marginal risk for severe weather from Nebraska down into western Kansas, eastern Colorado, into northern New Mexico, and areas of the Panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma. Marginal risk of severe weather also for southeast Texas and areas of Louisiana. And the risk of flash flooding, kind of a trifecta, if you will. Each one of these yellow areas have a 15% risk of flash flooding. And the southeast for today, a lot of rain is just going to be scooting across the southern areas of the Gulf states. And look at all these storms in like southern areas of Georgia. Florida will be a rainy day. And some of this, rain could sneak into South Carolina as we are starting to get maybe into later this evening. I really hope it doesn't actually rain like what it's showing here. In my neck of the woods here in Columbia, I have a soccer game early tomorrow morning. And it would be my luck to get it. Well, nope, I don't like to say that. It would stink to get it canceled. But I don't like to say it'll be my luck. That's kind of that victim mentality that I've gotten away from over the last several years. But Anyways, rain forecast between now and 8 p.m. Sunday from the Weather Prediction Center. Definitely looks like some washout, at least close to washout conditions for the southern half of Mississippi, Alabama, and even central and southern Georgia. We'll get a lot of rain, and just about the entire state of Florida has an opportunity to see a little bit of rain. But you can see there's a pretty tight cutoff up here. So northeast, we're going to get some rain this morning, and then some thunderstorms could form behind a reinforcing shot of cool air. Another cold front sweeping through, bringing some chilly air in, and some thunderstorms could actually sweep across New England and all the states involved, and they'll sweep in, sweep out, and then we're done. So be aware of that. South central U.S., a lot of rain moving through Louisiana this morning and to this afternoon. Storms could form in central to dipping down to southeastern Texas. Some of these could pack a punch. If we back it up, look at those storms ejecting off the southern high plains. Watch out Amarillo, Dodge City, Guyman, Woodard. Some storms could move into your area later tonight, and then they'll kind of diminish. But nothing too crazy, just a marginal risk. And rainfall between now and Sunday evening, this is what you're looking at. North central U.S., not a whole lot to speak on. A little bit of thunderstorms activity possible in northern Nebraska, southern South Dakota. And we could get some pop-up storms, downpours across southern Minnesota, areas of the Dakotas. Very isolated, definitely not widespread. But that's what you're looking at. Out west, just some moisture dancing around some of the same areas, the Rockies, really anywhere. Southern, central, northern Rockies could get some rain showers, some storms, and nothing out the ordinary, really. The eastern half of the country, these are temperatures, and this is what I'm saying, the reinforcing shot of cool air. It's going to feel nice up here in the upper Midwest, the interior sections of New England, chilly. Light jacket. Heck, I've just been wearing my little flannel just for the heck of it. It's not even been cool enough to really wear it, but I just like wearing it. I don't know about you guys. I know there's probably some people who can relate to this out there. Some people just like to wear a hoodie or a little flannel. Something about it, just, I don't know, just feels nice. But you can actually see where a lot of cloud cover and rain is, just based off the temperatures. Warmer in this little area here, cooler in this area here, very hot down here. So temperatures out west, this is what you're looking at. So, man, we can rumble through that video fast. Get a little bit better, guys. I know one of my biggest complaints over the years is your videos are too long. I don't think I'll ever completely get away from long videos, but I've tried to figure out ways to shorten them. But, evolving. But we're going to do our Bible devotion this morning, guys. This morning we're in 2 Timothy, 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 20. And I think it's I wrote down the verse wrong. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 20 through, I think it's 21. Yeah. Now in a large house, there are not only gold and silver vessels, but also those of wood and clay, some for honorable use and some for dishonorable use. So if anyone purifies himself from anything dishonorable, he will be a special instrument set apart, useful to the master, prepared for every good work. So I actually had to read over that a few times just to kind of just make sure I was understanding it correctly, I would say. But, Scripture is comparing believers to vessels. Some are made one way, some are made another. When you actively fight off and turn away from sin, you are set apart and used as a special instrument. You set yourself up to be useful to the Master, to God. God is ready to use you, but you have to prepare yourself daily to be used. So, we talk a lot about on this channel, following God's will in your life, the efforts you put in life. I have something I've always said, and I heard it from someone a long time ago. It says, God can put the quarter in the gumball machine, but you got to turn it to get the gumball out, right? And I know it sounds really corny and simple, but it's true. So, to kind of relate it to Scripture, you got to put in the effort every day to fight off your sinful desires. I mean, they just kind of come up naturally, and it's easy. You're surrounded by it. Your reactions, your habits, how you handle things. I fight every single day. It's a daily thing for me from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. So, just continue to fight that good fight against sin, and set yourself up to be used, and to be used by God. And I mean, that's ultimately one of the many things that we're supposed to do in this life. Is definitely the number one thing is is follow God's will on your life. And listen, you might ask, well, how do I know my will in my life, or how do I set myself up to be used? Well, how do I strengthen myself enough to fight off those sinful desires more? Well, you do that by waking up early in the morning. And I'm just kind of giving you examples of what I do. Wake up early in the morning. It's quiet. Whether you got kids or not, your kids aren't loud. Maybe your wife or your husband are still asleep. It's just quiet. Have your time in the Word, in the Scripture. Pray. That quiet time is huge. Find you a good church. Find you a good Bible study. Find you good friends. We're not always promised a perfect environment to grow as followers of Christ in. Don't expect everything to just go great, but do not stop trying to better your relationship with Christ. When you better your relationship with Christ, it doesn't mean you're not going to sin, but it does help you to not be tempted so much by these sinful desires. And when you're not tempted so much by these sinful desires, you won't sin as much. And then you set yourself up to maybe be a special instrument for God, to be used, guys. And we all got something about us that can be used. I try to use this platform, my YouTube, my weather, and I'm always feeling a nagging on my soul that I can do something so much more. And, with me, the first thing was bringing prayer into the channel. It was awesome. But then something kept nagging me. And I started doing devotions. You don't ever want to lose that nagging feeling. And I know y'all might be saying, well, I wouldn't call it a nag, but just a pull at your heart to do better. Once you lose that feeling to do better, then you can start heading down the wrong direction, the wrong road. So, set yourself up to be used, and that's a daily battle, guys. It's a good battle. It's a good fight. So, that's all I got. Thank y'all for everything. Have a wonderful day. Have a great beginning to your weekend. Listen, to me, today is the gateway. It's the front door to the best time of the year. I don't care what anybody says. Sorry if you disagree, but it is just the beginning to the best time of the year. I love it. It's such an underrated weekend, Labor Day weekend. It is just phenomenal, especially when you can match a beautiful cold front up with it. I mean, God is good, right? God is good. Y'all have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.